two things for both of you. Do you think this is the best big three ever assembled? Do you think they win a championship?
Welcome back, everybody. The Targeting Podcast. I'm here with the boys today. Boys, how are we doing?
They're wonderful.
Fantastic.
Love to hear.
Let's get it, baby. Huge
we got a
episode.
lot to talk about.
So, first, we got a big news. Harden's going to Brooklyn. We're going to get into that. You got to stay tuned for it. We just got to hit a couple quick points, and then you'll get into the arguments and why I know everything about sports because I was calling this from a mile away. But we will get back into that.
My God.
We'll get back into that. But we're going to do Player of the Weeks. I kind of want to start this week, personally.
Go ahead, Jerry. Go ahead.
So my Player of the Week it pertains to the college football playoffs. It was Devontae Smith. Had a great game. Very skinny guy, but he had a great game. I'm forgetting the stats off the top of my head.
I got him.
But obviously,
I just have him in my head. I'm not even like it was like 215
right.
yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But he only played. I
think
it was 12 catches too or something. But he only played one half. He got injured.
Well, yeah, they were. Yeah, I know. And I knew it was over 200 yards. Just couldn't get him in my mind. But he was the Heisman winner. He was doubted a lot. They were saying how he was too skinny to play and how he was never going to be able to take big hits. He didn't really need to take big hits, though, that game. He was just running over everybody. So that was a crazy game. And that's my Player of the Week. I just wanted to get that in. If you missed that game, it was a great game in the first half. Kind of got lost from Ohio State in the second half. But Justin, what is your Player of the Week?
My Player of the Week is Baker Mayfield. I know he was yours last week when he clinched the playoffs, and this week he's got to be mine after a big playoff win, his first of his career, the first for the Browns in a long, long time. Great win for the Browns. I mean, we hit on that in our wild card special last week, or divisional round special rather.
If you want to hear more from our NFL, check our wild card. We got all the wild card recap and all the predictions for next week. So hit that up if you're there. But Justin, go ahead.
Facts. But yeah, crazy game from Baker. Really just a huge performance. That first half was, the first quarter in particular was incredible. And that wasn't even all Baker. That was the defense, and especially everybody the Browns just played great as a team. Huge monster win, obviously upset over the Steelers. We did talk about it, so I don't need to talk about it too much more. But mine's Baker this week. What about you, John?
All right, I'm going with a completely different approach here. I'm going right to the NHL opening night. And I'm going to have to say it's a tough one. I'm going to shout out 3 guys, but I'm going to give it to one in the end. But these 3 guys played an unbelievable game. Oilers-Canucks game, 5-2. 2 great teams with a lot of young stars out there. We had Dratzel getting 4 assists. That's just unbelievable to me. He's a playmaker out there, and he didn't even have to score to show off his talent. We got Nugent Hopkins getting 2 goals and an assist. But I'm going to end up giving it to the guy who got the Hattie, McDavid, getting 3 goals. Absolutely skating his ass around the defense, stopping, pulling trig, and getting it right in there. And he got an assist on it as well. So that's going to go with McDavid. 3 goals and an assist. That's just unbelievable.
Yeah, Captain Connor, man. Hattie on opening week. He's just dirty. That Oilers team, it's painful to watch the Oilers, though, a little bit. I don't know if you agree with me, John, but, they have those 3 guys you just named, especially McDavid and Draisaitl, are just so good. Arguably the top 2 players in the entire league.
Oh, they're already on.
And the Oilers are just bad. They just lose. They're just meant to lose games. They just can't. They both had 4-point nights, and they still somehow oh man, it's just actually. So they're 1-1. They won the second night against Vancouver. They split
with the Canucks. That's why I'm giving them this 2 as well, because he came out to play. But the Canucks are just such a versatile team, and I'm looking at their roster right now because I didn't know everyone else on the team, and they got some guys, but really, it's just those 3 guys I named are like the big ones.
Oh, yeah, it's so painful. They've had so many.
And the goalie.
He's number 19. I can't pronounce his name, but
Koskinen is not even that. He went 38 for 40 with his saves, but that's. He's. I think they have Mike Smith.
I think they might. I know they just need to find a franchise goalie
right now. I know he's old, but that guy is still a brick wall in my opinion. We'll get into it, but I don't know. Just Koskinen, you're putting a young guy in net to start off the season. I like it, but also you're a team that should be making the playoffs now with the players you got.
They need to be making the playoffs, and that is really where I'll just finish up there on that game. It's just the Oilers, I hope they have a good year. I don't know that they will. I hope they do, though. And they need to be a playoff team with that talent on their roster.
We'll definitely get into it because the NHL has had a lot of interesting things that I want to talk about with you boys. They got a lot of new interesting policies.
We can actually go there right now. But John and Justin, let me ask you a question first. So we'll get into this later. But the NBA is obviously had its troubles, keeping people, not from getting COVID or not from contact tracing. And as a result, a lot of games have been canceled or postponed. I know it was just opening week, so I don't know how much you guys can speak on this, but what do you think is the NHL's future for COVID? Do you think they can get through it? Do you think there's going to be a lot of
So first, I'll give you the rundown, Jerry, in case you the formatting is really confusing for hockey. So they're normally 4 divisions, but they've completely rearranged everything to make essentially all new divisions. So like the Bruins are playing with all new teams that they used to be in the Atlantic division, and now we're in a division called the East, which doesn't have any Canadian teams or anything. So Canada has their own division, and then USA has 3 split because you can't cross the border.
The closest division is Honda West. They named them obviously after their
I think ours is like Mass Mutual East. But so basically we play the same 7 teams 8 times each to get to a 56 game schedule all season. So you only travel to the same 7 cities and you only play the same 7 teams all year. So you're basically, it's not bubbles by any means, but it's small 8-team pools. You play the same 7 teams 8 times. So it's like pools of 8 that only play each other. So in that regard, you're not opening yourself up to a 30-team league. You're only opening yourself up to 8 teams or 7 other teams, excluding yourself. And nobody, I mean, like you said, it's only been 1 week. It hasn't even been a week. It's been a few nights. So we can't say for sure yet because the beginning of the first week of the NBA worked well too. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen. I feel like this will work a little better.
I will say keeping the Canadian teams out of the picture in America is probably a smart move, as much as I hate to say it because I love seeing the rivalries there. But, the Canadian, you're going to get a lot of Canadian special games going. So honestly, hats off to that. You're going to see a lot of rivalries there. I mean, the Mass Mutual East and the Discover Central, again, they're trying to split it up Pacific, Canada, East, Central. But, I mean, really, the only thing that's changed is a couple teams from the West, like Dallas, Nashville, and Chicago, have gone to Central because that's really where they are. And most of the Eastern teams have just changed from either Metropolitan to Atlantic. Most of those, like Washington, New York teams have moved down.
In fact, pretty much like we're in like the Metro for the most part. Like a lot of Metropolitan teams are in the East that we're playing it now.
We are.
Yeah,
we are. So, I mean, and we play those teams all the time anyways. So I'm not upset with the Bruins schedule. I wish we obviously got to play the Blues in Tampa.
Well, it's just more exciting as a sports fan to get to play every team. Like it's obviously, it sucks to be cut off from the rest of the league, but I mean, I get what they're doing.
I know you got to do it. The only thing that's really intact right now is the West. I mean, the West has like all the teams that you typically would see playing each other late night at 10 o'clock at night, so, or 10, Eastern. But I mean, when you look at it, I see what they're doing here. I think it's a smart way to do it because I think that the NHL doing a bubble system like Disney, even though they have smaller teams, they don't have as small teams as basketball, so it's a lot harder to do that. And there's so many teams.
Yeah, and I don't think you can do a bubble for an entire regular season. It's one thing for the playoffs.
And they want to do a whole season, so I get it. But they're doing more of a, it's a shorter season, but they're trying to do as much of a whole season as they can.
And then I'll ask you this, and then John, you can hit on main points if you would like. So since there is kind of like you're playing the same teams consistently, is there a little bit of unfairness there with the league in terms of you're not getting to play other teams, which might create you more wins, or you're kind of facing a team that might be better than yours?
There is an argument there. I think you're right. There is an argument there because if you look at you got to look at it and you're not playing, a ton of competition, but at the end of the day, when I look at these leagues, they seem pretty balanced. Besides maybe the Canadian teams seem. The Canadian teams.
It's the NHL. The NHL is the NHL. But to be honest, there is going to be some variation in the talent level that you're seeing. The East Division that we're in has already been nicknamed like the Division of Death or something like that. I forget what exactly it was called, but the division that the Bruins are in, has already been labeled as the hardest division. We're in a tough
we
division.
have
We
the
play the
Islanders,
Capitals, the Penguins, the Flyers, the Islanders,
and
the Devils, the Rangers, the Sabres. I mean,
the Flyers are building back to a team that we saw in 2011. That could have.
I mean, even the teams that you think would be at the bottom of our division, like the Sabres or the Devils or whatever, the Sabres just added Taylor Hall. The Devils looked pretty good last night. I mean,
the
shout
Rangers
out to Brad
aren't bad.
Marchand
They just
for the
played a
overtime
really
win.
tough Islanders team.
Let's go Bees.
The Rangers aren't bad. So here's the thing, Jerry, is a lot of these teams. I mean, especially in the East. We'll just stick to the East for now. But a lot of teams, I don't know how they're going to do the playoffs. I mean, we're not even there yet, and it's going to probably be a little confusing. But a lot of teams that deserve to make it, because I'm looking at it, if they do 4 from each league, let's say.
I know how it is going to be. Do you want me to explain it? So
yeah,
I'll explain how the playoffs are going to work. So 4 teams out of each division make it. So 4 out of 8 will make it to the top half. So 4 of our division team will make it. I hope the Bruins can get in. And I think we can get in with only 4 making it. I think we can do it, but it is going to be tough because all 8 teams are really good hockey.
Will there be wild cards if there's a tie or anything?
No. So there's 4. No, there won't be any seeding games or anything like that. So the top 4 in each division make it. Then the winners of that play. So then the top 2 from those 4 will play each other. And then you'll have the 1 winner from each of the 4 divisions will make the final 4. And based on regular season wins, those 4 teams get seeded. I think they all go to one place. So that whatever the Canada team is crosses over the border and plays in the U.S. for the finals. And then there'll be 4 final teams based on regular season wins or points rather in the regular season.
It's going to be like
you'll see that, and then the final 2 play in the Stanley Cup.
Top 4, okay.
Yeah, so 4 from each division.
We could end up seeing like teams from the Eastern Conference, 2 teams playing each other in the playoffs, like in the finals. Because
I don't know. I wonder if that's how it could. I think it must be, yeah. Because yeah.
So that's another thing that I hate, because I think it's always nice to see teams from different regions playing against each other. I mean, that's it makes it that much more competitive for me. Another thing is, I'm looking at the schedule right now, and the Mass Mutual East is looking like those top 4 teams: Islanders, Philly, Washington, Boston are the 4 teams that should make it. But now you have, I mean, New Jersey's not great.
Pittsburgh.
I think Pittsburgh. Rangers, I think, are still struggling to build a team and they're losing Lundqvist with a heart surgery. So
he went to the Capitals anyways, but yeah.
So I think the Rangers will miss it. And I mean, that's actually true. They did lose him, but still. And I think Pittsburgh is a great team, but again, they've been struggling recently, just putting pieces together. And Buffalo is a team that's coming up. They got these young guys and they just get hauled. So I'm going to hate to see some of these teams miss it.
I know. I mean, it's the same case. It's the same case in all 4 divisions, not just the East too. So it's going to be an interesting year of hockey. I'm glad hockey's back though, man. It's fun to watch. It's great.
I'm glad it's back as well.
It is great to have it back.
And I mean, the one thing I noticed right now out of all of them is that Ottawa decides to change and go back to the old school logo, which I don't know.
I'm not a fan of that, but Fortunately, I don't think I'll be watching much Ottawa hockey this year. Not gonna lie, I'll just be honest.
Well, we can definitely, as the season progresses. I mean, I'll touch on a couple things that I got to talk to you boys about with hockey, and we'll move on. But I think as the season progresses, we'll definitely get some predictions going when there are more games played. Because I mean, I think it's going to be pretty easy to guess which teams are going to be doing much better in a smaller league like this.
No, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing also with this whole league is now we see at least most of the teams. I don't think Ottawa did it, but I think most teams have done it. I know the Bruins have done it, but they're doing ads, not only for the divisions, but they're doing ads on the helmets. And
yeah, in fact, it's not just additionally adding an ad; it's ads replacing the logos on the helmets.
So here's my whole thing. I have always said this to Justin, I think, and Jerry, I'll add it to you too. And I've never been that's a European thing for me. Europeans always do the
yeah, it's very European. Yep.
And I get if you're doing, Chase, TD Bank, whatever is sponsoring you, I get it. I'd rather see it on the jersey, like the Celtics got in the corner, or maybe on the shoulder pad. Not in place of the logo, though. Not in place of the logo. I obviously would rather have the logo on the shoulder pad. If I had to choose between the two, I'd take the helmet. But at the end of the day, I get it because they're not going to have fans in the building, so fans.
And they lost out on the money from last year too. I mean, I get it. They got to do it. I understand.
They got to do it.
I'll live.
But I'm just saying it's a new thing for me because the U.S. has always been different about that.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, I do think it's much more of a European thing, but I get it in a business sense where you need a little more money if
Oh,
you
100%. 100%.
I don't really get like putting it like in place of a logo. I think that's when it crosses the line. But I think in terms of just if they put it on the shoulder pad or even like how this NBA does it, like kind of,
Yeah, right.
I can make sense of it there because and these players might even like it in support of that, because if it can get more money into the league and then thus translate into being paid more, that might even be better for them. But I don't agree with putting it over any like logo or any other signage. But
they do. The NHL has lost a lot of money with concessions, especially. That's where they get a big amount of money from with the tickets already. So they're making no money. But I know that they're trying to bring it in. I mean, Jerry, I don't know if you saw it out. I'm sure Justin did, but we got the Bruins playing the Flyers, which would be a very tough game. I think any game the Bruins are going to play against the Flyers is going to be tough. I'm scared to play them. That might be 8 losses we get right there if we don't play our best hockey. And that's why I'm scared. That's why I'm scared in our division. But the Flyers will play the Bruins outdoors in some new rink they're setting up over
Lake Tahoe.
Lake Tahoe. So it's going to be somewhat of a winter classic feel. And the Bees got those new retro jerseys. All the teams have the retro jerseys, which I'd love to see pop out more.
We definitely will.
I think that I forget who the other 2 teams are playing. I think they're Canadian. I think they're trying to get Canadian teams in that game. I forget. I don't know what it is.
God, that's terrible. I should know that. That's terrible.
TSN, but we'll get back to you guys about that. But so they're trying to get more money. I get it. There are talks of potentially, if the NHL season is getting rough, COVID's really screwing them over with games, and like the NBA has been. We'll get into that. There's always in the back of their head going to outdoor rinks and getting in some people. That's always been, I think, in the back of Bettman's head, and I think he's definitely got the resources to do that. I mean, they've done Winter Classics pretty easily. My uncle does the rinks for that stuff, so it's not a hard process, but it definitely is a tedious one that they got to get ahead of if they want to keep a season going. But I'd be interested to see, because the MLB doesn't look like anything's happening. So if that doesn't happen and the MLB just goes for another long off season and doesn't play anything, then the hockey should be able to go right on the baseball fields and play outdoor hockey, in my opinion. That's me though. But I'm wondering what you boys think about that if that ends up happening.
I like that they're doing the outdoor games for sure. I know that earlier in December it was looking like I know some cities were seriously considering like playing all of the games outdoors, which I guess I'm glad that didn't end up needing to happen. But it is cool to have some outdoor games. There always are in the NHL. I'm glad they're continuing that through COVID. Sure.
I personally like outdoor games, but I don't think it makes sense for the entire season. But having a couple of them here and there, I don't think would hurt anything.
I think a couple for sure.
Especially if they were considering canceling a game and that was the alternative. But we'll get right into NBA.
Yeah, should we go NBA? Should we just talk
about
this
blockbuster? Quick shout out though. Number 22, Willie O'Ree getting he's going to get up in the rafters. I think he was actually the first black NHL player.
No, he was. I wish I knew the stat. I feel bad.
He was Indian actually. I think.
I just don't know. I should know the stat. I don't want to.
All I'll say is
he's just a true legend. But
he was one of the first multicultural, diverse players to enter the league. He played for the Bruins. I don't remember. I think he has a mixture of Indian and black descent, but he was one of the first guys. He's going up in the rafters. He really changed the league in that aspect. And so that's all I'll say on that. But
all good.
Yeah.
All right. We'll get an NBA.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. So I think the first thing I'm going to say is, I told you so. And I'm gonna play the clip right here. I think Harden goes to Brooklyn.
I think Harden will still perform if you keep him, but I don't know if you can keep him.
Where does everyone think Harden will go?
Harden's going to Brooklyn.
I don't know about
but yeah, that was crazy. I know I said it, but it like even when I was saying it, I was like, is there really a scenario here like where we could
Jerry, look, I put my differences aside and I'm gonna give you the credit. All right.
Here's the thing, John. Here's what I will say to you. You did say that you understand if like you can see it happening. All of you said you could see it happening.
But here's my thing though, at the end of the day, Justin and I were on the same page with this. I'm just gonna say it in one word. Why? And I'm gonna get into something else that I have to talk about this that Shaq said, and I'm gonna reiterate what he said. But just like I understand why he's doing this, but also I don't think the Nets, are understanding what the outcome could be in the worst possibility. Like the team's already struggling to win games that they should easily win. I mean, the superstars are not playing the minutes that they should be playing.
Yeah. So before we get into this, if you somehow have been living under a rock and don't know what trade went down, I'll just run through it real quick. But so the Nets, there's a 4-team trade, blockbuster as it gets. James Harden ends up in Brooklyn, which I'm sure you know that part if you are watching this sports podcast. You must at least know that. But anyways, Victor Oladipo, Dante Exum, Rodions Kurucs, and 8 first-rounders go to Houston's way. 4 of them are swaps. 4 of them are just unprotected picks. And the Pacers pick up Karis LeVert, and the Cavs pick up Jared Allen. So a huge turnaround across the whole league, which is pretty crazy.
Let's go through right now who we think is winning this trade. Let's just go through who we think is winning this trade, and I think.
Well, I was actually going to ask you guys that. Do you guys think there is let me ask you. Who do you think is the winner of this trade? Who would you say is the winner of this trade?
Can I go, Jerry?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So what I think right now is we're already. I think honestly, two teams have won this trade, or came out more on top than the other two. I think Pacers gave away Oladipo. Now he had, he didn't play very many games, had an injury. I think one of you had him on his lineup last season. I remember that. And it's a real bummer. So I get why the Pacers are parting ways. They need a player that's going to be a little more healthy, and they're already doing pretty well this season to start it off. But that definitely is going to hurt them, because he is a versatile player. He can really play the ball on the court. And in return, you're getting Karis LeVert. Now, a great player as well, and you're getting a second-round pick, so you're getting something. But I'm not saying that they necessarily won or lost the trade, but I just think that losing Oladipo is definitely a blow. But moving forward from that, I think Houston acquiring Oladipo, and we already had this discussion, and I think that Houston needs picks. They need to start getting more picks for the team. I think they gave out a lot of picks. We went over that for a lot of players that were going to help Harden out, and they didn't end up helping. And so I'm glad that Houston got picks, and I'm glad that they got out Oladipo. They're going to have I think they're obviously, I'll go with Jerry. I don't think they're going to be 2 seed, but I think they're definitely going to work their way up, hopefully, if they can get the system going. And honestly, the team that I also think kind of you're getting rid of Dante Exum, and you're getting in return Jared Allen and Taurean Prince. I think the Cavs already having a great, or not great, but a pretty good season. We didn't think that they were going to be in the top 8 seeds. And now you're getting a big guy, and you're getting Taurean Prince. I mean, that's just, and you only got rid of Dante Exum in a couple picks. And I don't think
it's pretty incredible. The Cavs just got involved in this last second. Just picked up Jared Allen for Dante Exum. I don't really know how they even did that. I'm going to
say my number one team that won this trade is going to be the Cavs, just because I think the talent they're bringing in for what they gave up is the best.
Yeah.
But I think that the Rockets definitely won out because they definitely need to bring in Oladipo and get some picks in. And I think the 2 teams that made interesting choices, less so the Pacers, but more so the Nets. Only because we'll get into it. I knew back in my head, I felt like Jerry was going to be right, and I didn't like it. But you got 3 superstars now, and for me, if you don't win this season, all of it, if you don't win this season and you don't come out in the 1st seed or at least the 2nd seed, the Nets.
So here's my thing. Yeah.
Like what the hell? Like
here's my thing. I have a who won now and who won later. So for right now, I think the Cavs definitely stole. Like somehow they got in. Like I didn't even hear about them till like last minute. Like I knew the Pacers were involved. I knew
Allen. I didn't know Prince. That was like
so. I think the Cavs definitely got like a little steal here. Like they just kind of got in and came out. I definitely think the Rockets won, and here's why: because Victor Oladipo is a great player. They kind of needed someone next to John Wall, and I think like I don't think Oladipo is Bradley Beal. But I do think that they could work well together because I think Wall and
Beal. Is this long term for you? Like the long term win?
Long term, I think if the Nets can even get 1 championship out of this, they win this deal. That's my long term.
Okay, I agree with you, but I will say if they don't get a championship in the next 2 seasons, this is a real.
Yeah. It's catastrophic, and it seems like a lot of the decision making that went behind it. I'm not saying it's the exact same trade. but it seems like the similar of the Pierce KG.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because
Nets,
they just got free of that madness and now just did it again. They've done it again.
So it seems like the Nets just like to gather all these picks to get like a can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. It seems like the Nets just gather all these picks to get like a once in a lifetime like opportunity, but then it always falls through, and then they have to rebuild, and it's just crazy.
It does. And like you said, they better win a ring. They better win a ring, or you've done it again.
I think we're all in agreement that they need to. This season I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. You're getting Harden now. You got to work with the system, but I will say, I still think you should make a good run this season, regardless of whether Harden just joins you a little into the season. I think, if you think that he's such a great player and he's going to fit your system and you made this trade, then you should be thinking that you're going to go somewhere right away.
Well, yeah, it seems like short-term gain for tremendous long-term loss because Justin's right. They just got rid of the KG Paul Pierce situation. They got all their picks back. They got Dinwiddie. They got Karis LeVert. They got Kyrie. They got KD. Why would you even need anybody else? You're probably going to win out the division anyways, if all things are considered, and you're still a championship contender even without Harden. So it was, even though I guessed it, it is still a little peculiar why that.
I think I know why they might have done it, but I don't at the same time. I think we both know that, or we all know that the way the season started off is I don't think how they envisioned it. Losing games to teams that they should definitely not be losing to, and winning games to teams that they beat the 76ers by a good margin too. You obviously you have to win that game, but you shouldn't be losing to the Hawks. The Hawks are good, but you shouldn't be losing to them.
I think their thought process is if they bring in another superstar, then it will give them other guys, KD and Kyrie, a little more incentive to play a little better, and that if they can do that, then they'll just start winning all these games.
I know, but I don't see how the ball handling is going to go around.
Yeah, we'll see how the ball moves. But Justin, what was your opinion, your thoughts?
I actually personally think, in a way, all four teams are winners. I think that I can easily start with the Cavs and just say, like you guys both had said it as well, that they just jumped in here, got a win somehow for Dante Exum, and got out. I believe that they did have to. One of the 8 picks going to Houston is from them as well, and I think it was Milwaukee's original pick, so it's going to be like 29 or 30 anyways. It's going to be a very late first round pick anyways, so it's not too big a deal there.
So they're winning.
But it was basically you bring in Jared Allen, that's huge, and Andre Drummond coming up a contract here coming up for Drummond. They don't know if they want to pay him $35 million a year or whatever he's going to need, and now you have a young guy, a young center you can build around that fits the timeline with Garland and Sexton anyways. So I like that a lot for them. The Pacers, Victor Oladipo, again, another situation where he was in a contract here coming off that injury. How much are you willing to give Depot? Because he obviously is going to want upwards of 20, 25 mil. Are you going to give him that? Are you not? Karis LeVert is just a younger version of him that has a high ceiling that he hasn't reached yet. I love Karis LeVert, that acquisition for the Pacers. That he's young, he's great, he's really good, and that's going to be real nice for them. With the question mark of what Victor Oladipo was coming off that injury, I think this was a huge W for them as well.
I think Oladipo definitely needed to change the scenery.
Yeah, he did. Big contract, and that's where I want to ask you about this too. Now that I'll get to the Rockets, but I've already started hearing that Victor Oladipo is unhappy in Houston, and that was just a shot to the heart. I was like, well, how could you be? How could you be? You're going to a team with John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, and yourself. What's the common theme there? You're all coming off injuries. You're all just trying to play for your next contract, and you're all on the same team. You have nothing to lose anymore. That you don't have Harden. You don't need to go win a championship. Just play, have fun.
For me,
and they have Christian Wood too. And now Depot says he wants to leave already. Fuck that.
For me, that's a not underrated, but that's a superstar trio that have been hurt a lot by injuries. But if they can control that and they can play smart basketball and work together well, that's a trio that can get the Rockets up to a good seeding and make a good run, hopefully.
Did you imagine in 2018 a big three of John Wall, Victor Oladipo, and Boogie? That would have been dirty. It could still be something. why would you not give it a try? I don't understand how Oladipo could be.
I
hope I'm wrong.
I think he might be in shock at first. I mean, if you're any player in this big, 14 blockbuster trade, and Oladipo probably thought he might have been getting money from the Pacers. The Pacers are doing well. Houston's not. I think any player who's going to go to a team that's not doing well and have a change of scenery, I think it's going to be a shock to you. I don't think he's unhappy. I think he's just got to give it a chance. But
I think,
again,
he could be unhappy. There's two things I want to say here. One, I think if he gets a couple of games under his belt, I think it will work out a little better. The second reason I think that it might be a little bit true is a lot of these players, they know they're good. They know they're at the top of their game. And Victor Oladipo is no different. He's a really good player. And I think it hurts him a little bit to be involved in a trade offer like this because Harden's the main guy. No one else besides us and besides people that watch our podcasts would know that this is like a 4-team trade. No one's focused on that. Everyone's like, oh, Harden's going to Brooklyn, like Harden, Kyrie, KD.
Yeah.
And Victor Oladipo is just kind of like this other piece for the Rockets. No one really gives a shit that he went to the Rockets. So I think there's he's a little self-conscious there for himself because he doesn't.
You got to get over that though. You're going to a great team, He's
going to a great team, but I think in like an ideal world, if there was a trade happening, Oladipo would be one of the main guys of that deal, which is just.
Well, I feel like he probably wanted to be like not 1-for-1, but something like that going for
something
Harden.
like that, and something
and I
like
get it.
was a very valued player, which in this case, it's just like. It's just like
you gotta chalk it up and realize you're gonna be playing with Boogie and Wall, and God forbid, that's gonna get me into another thing with Boogie. Christ Almighty, he's getting ejected from 2 games already in the start of the season. And we're not even that far in. That's probably my what the fuck moment of a couple weeks now. I just, Boogie. I'm not a huge fan, but I want to see you do well. I mean, you're in a system where
he hasn't looked great. He's got to play better. It's been all Christian Wood in Houston. Christian Wood's been fantastic.
You're a guy who can be so strong for that team. Now that you got a John Wall and Oladipo duo, and getting ejected for some dumb plays too. Like some of them, I mean, some of it's a little questionable, but still, just like try and not be too physical. Like he's getting more physical than he is getting on the ball. That's the thing.
Here's the thing I'll say about that is I do think that now that Harden's gone, it's going to be a little better because Harden was a very like I don't think people realize he was a toxin there. Didn't want to be there. So many reports. I've heard so much shit of him just talking shit constantly, not wanting to be there, telling that verbally to his players.
He was unhappy.
I don't want to be here. And then DeMarcus Cousins came out saying, Harden came out in an interview basically just dissing Houston. And then DeMarcus was like, there's been way more stuff happening before he did that interview. Which shows me personally that there's been a long time.
John Wall also said that too. So clearly Harden was messing up that locker room. No doubt.
So here's the thing: if you're a player that is supposed to be the leader of that team and has been there the longest or almost longest, you can't be you bring in 2 guys who are such great ball players, and if you're gonna mess up that locker room situation. The organization, I understand why they wanted to get him out and why they tried to make a deal like this, because if that's all true and the interviews are what really was hurting it, kind of like a Kyrie situation here, you got to get him out. You got to make sure that your team is winning out and not, you're not playing for some superstar. And I get it. Harden's been in Houston for a long time. It's probably a blow to Houston entirely, but at the end of the day, Houston's got to realize that, like the Boston fans, a while back, it's going to be a blessing for you.
Yeah,
you're getting Oladipo, you're getting picks, you're going to be fine. I think you're going to be much better.
Yeah, I think just everyone needs to give Houston a little time. They might do well this year, they might not. Just give them a little time. They got the picks they need now, so just kind of give it some time. It'll all work out. Harden's gone, so now you have a real chance of actually improving in the future. Because for me, he was just like a brick in your way. You were never going to get anywhere.
It was time to rebuild. They needed to reset. They got rid of Westbrook earlier. It was time to get rid of Harden. There was no point keeping him. I like the moves a lot. It is pretty interesting to look at the trade that ended up happening when you think about all the talk about how it was going to be Embiid or Ben Simmons or whatever, or it had to be Kyrie if it was going to be with the Nets or whatever. Or even if you look at the way past stars like this have been traded, like you look at the Anthony Davis trade, we're talking about Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, and all of these picks all these young stars and picks all going to New Orleans for just Anthony Davis. And if Oladipo leaves, the Rockets essentially get Dante Exum and Rodions Kurucs. So at the end of the day, it's just the draft capital. They got a shit ton of draft capital, and that's what it is. They got eight picks essentially. It's so much draft capital, and all they've done in the past few years is trade away picks to bring help for Harden, whether it's Chris Paul or Russell Westbrook or whatever it may be. And now they just brought them all back.
They are the one
so
team
huge. Their future was ruined, and they've saved themselves.
They're one team that doesn't see a lot of young talent coming in from draft classes. They need those picks. They need to start getting some better young guys through the system, like the Celtics have been doing. And I think, this is. I mean, Justin, I think you predicted. I think you said it was going to be a Kyrie Harden, or Kyrie for Harden, something like that, or it was going to be you're taking your whole bench, your depth. Yeah. Karis LeVert, you're taking everyone out and your picks, and you're getting Harden. And I think that was the more likely of the case, and we saw that. And I'm not surprised, but I'm just, losing Karis LeVert. I mean, we're all, that's just, I agree with you. That's a great guy who's got a lot of potential. And for a Nets team, long term, losing some picks and losing him, I think is gonna. I mean, I even forget about Jared Allen. I mean, and Taurean Prince. That's gonna hurt you in the end. Yeah. I mean, they can win big, or they can still lose very long term. They will fall big, but they can win a couple championships. But
Justin did say earlier that it would probably be like multiple smaller guys. It wouldn't be like Kyrie or KD. And I think also the Nets are, I think they got to be wary because I don't know what you guys think about this, but my prediction, at least, if Dinwiddie wasn't injured, I don't know if he wouldn't have been included in that deal. I mean,
I completely agree.
But I think the Nets are hurting themselves a little bit because I think if Dinwiddie was included in that deal, wherever he was going to go, let's say it's the Rockets, they wouldn't have to include their entire future in draft picks.
They probably would have been able to keep a couple more picks, maybe.
So I think the Nets hurt themselves a little more. And then if Dinwiddie for some reason wants to leave, I wouldn't blame him because you got fucking 3 superstars. Where do you fit in there? So I think
I would have liked to see Dinwiddie actually go. I mean, either to the Cavs or to. I mean, if he went to the Pacers, the Cavs, or even to Houston, I think he wins there. I mean, he's getting to 3 great teams. He's sticking with a couple of his old players, and hell, those teams have all. I mean, we all agree those teams won out on these. Every team won in their own way, but those teams definitely. I thought it was going to be a 2-team trade. I didn't think it was going to be 4. When you said that,
nobody saw that's coming. We've heard the Nets and the Sixers rumors forever, but to hear, I never thought Victor Oladipo would have been traded yesterday, or
that was the biggest.
Or the Cavs would have been involved.
I think my big thing, and I mean, I don't know if you boys. I mean, I think I've told you boys. I'm not a huge fan of Harden. I respect that he is a guy who gets a lot of points every season. He's a good player. Say what you want. I mean, you can say a lot about players, but for me, a good player, a strong player, is a team player and someone who's going to take you to championships. Which for me, Harden has not really done that much. He had a quick chance in 2017. That fell out. Last couple seasons, not really doing well, and to see him on top of the league for points and everything almost every single season, and you're not winning a lot of games. You're not winning some of those games that he gets 60 points. And that for me is terrible. And then to hear, and I was in a Shaq interview, to hear, they were talking to Shaq about it. And Shaq said, he read off from the interview or whatever his message was to Houston. He said, I did everything I could, and no, I agree with Shaq. You didn't do everything you could. I'm sorry, Harden. I respect your game, but honestly, no, I'm sorry. This is I understand why you're leaving, and I'm glad you are because Houston doesn't deserve you. They don't want you, and they shouldn't keep you because you're a toxin. But even worse than that, you did nothing. You've been on that team for so long. Houston has sacrificed so much to bring in players for you that honestly, I think the players that they have brought in, Houston should at least have 1 championship under their belt. With the guys that they have brought in for Harden, and
they've done a lot for him,
and what they've sacrificed for the future. So I honestly, my heart goes out to the Houston fans, and I just agree with Shaq on that. Shaq is completely right to be, and that kind of,
Yeah, I was going to mention that quote too. Actually, I'm glad you saw that. I completely agree. I think he did a lot. He did for the past 8 years. he has done everything he could do for that city until this past year, where he's just pulled all this shit, been not going to practice or whatever. He's hitting strip clubs. He's messing up the locker room, and the whole team knows it. Like he's just clearly I think that I respect everything he did for Houston, but if you were to do everything for that city, that would have meant that you tried to make it work with this team, and you never ever gave it your best.
Like
you never gave an effort to try to make it work this year.
Like Giannis stays in Milwaukee. That's like perfect.
This was not a horrible roster going into this year. He was looking at a starting lineup of John Wall, himself, Eric Gordon, Christian Wood, and DeMarcus Cousins. That's fine. No, and you have Daniel House there still. They had some good players. That's a decent roster. That's good enough.
That's way more than fine.
It is way more than fine. That's a team that you need to try to make it work with, and he didn't try at all. So that isn't giving everything to your city.
Yeah, real quick. My thing also is, here it is. Everything you do, this is anything in life. So I'm not going to get all, soft and shit, but anything you do in life, people don't remember what good things you did. Because right away, when you do something terrible or shitty or whatever, it ruins your whole image. I mean, to an extent, obviously, Tom Brady, what's the last thing we remember? He left the team. We obviously know that he won the Super Bowls, and I respect him.
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, we can't control. But for Harden especially, like you said, he did all these things for 8 years. And now to do this, and he literally, it's almost as if he just created a pandemic for that team.
Well, the thing is, like, for Tom Brady, if we're like, no, we're not comparing the two, but what I'm going to say is, like, for Tom Brady, I'll never forget how he made me feel during was it 51? Against that Falcons game. I'll never forget how he made me feel during that Seahawks game, or vice versa. I think the thing that Harden is forgetting, and Justin said it perfectly, if he was going to give everything he has to the city, everything, he would have tried to make it work this season, because this was a great opportunity for him. He fucked up the Russell Westbrook situation. He fucked up the Chris Paul situation. He fucked up every single scenario of where he could have won. So his last thing that he could have done, and a lot of people didn't even say he messed it up. A lot of people were like, oh, Chris Paul wasn't and then they were like, oh, Russell Westbrook's a toxin.
Nah, he messed it up.
So for me, Justin put the nail in the coffin there, where he was just like, all you have to do is try it out with this team. John Wall, we don't know what he can be yet because he's getting injured too much. DeMarcus Cousins, same thing. He's getting injured too much, so we don't know what he can be. You're a guy that scores consistently, and you're a good ball player. If you communicate that to your teammates and you try to make this work in Houston, you might actually have a shot at something here. Because John Wall, we don't know what John Wall is, but John Wall's good.
He's been playing great too this year.
Great. I think if he gave at least this year, maybe the next year, but at least this year for me, and then he said, it's not working, I'd like to request a trade, I think I'd have a little bit more respect for him. But the fact that he does this and they're falling to the bottom of the division, and then he ends up, or the conference, and he ends up leaving right now when you still have so many few games, that doesn't help.
Another thing I'll say, and then we'll kind of move on, is it wasn't helpful that he went to the Nets either. I know I was calling it, but out of every team you could have went to, if you went to the Sixers, I would have
won big. The Sixers would have won big.
I would have been like, all right, that's good. That's a team that hasn't won in a while. That's a team that if you go on and you have all these other guys with you and you find a way to keep them on the team, obviously, then you can make a decent run. And if you win the finals or whatever, good for you. But if you just went to a team where they already have an established system, you just want to fuck everything up to just try to get your ring. And that's what's going to tarnish his career. And it's what tarnished KD's career, and it's tarnishing Kyrie's. It's the fact that they don't want to work to get anything. They just want to go on super teams to win rings so that they can be like, haha, I got so many rings on my fingers.
The problem with that is that these super teams like that act like that they don't play the minutes that they should. They don't win the games that they should. They coast through the season like we talked about with the Clippers, who should have had a much better chance at a ring by now. And then they lose Harrell, so now it's really killing them. They're still doing well, but still, these teams who coast through seasons and don't put in the effort and don't put in the minutes and don't play for the contracts that they are given are not going to ever get a ring, in my opinion, because that is not what that's not what a winning team does.
Well, it just upsets me because they're not even winning anything. To
For
me,
me, I still stand
like,
by it. If you had given Simmons for Harden, I felt like that would, or something else in there, that would have been better.
Like the reason KD won on the Warriors wasn't because of him. He was helpful. Don't get me wrong, but it was Curry. It was all the pieces he had around him.
Clay.
It was all the pieces he had around him. And same thing goes for Kyrie. The only reason you won was because you had LeBron on your team. So
yeah, I mean, this basically is a team of 3 guys that, like you had said, Jerry, just don't want to do it on their own and would just rather take the easy way out. And that's essentially what it is. I mean, the whole Brooklyn Nets team, it just looks like these are a bunch of guys trying to take the easy way out. They're just trying to make a super team and stuff. And
it's not even my problem that they're trying to do that, but they don't give the other side a chance. Like for me, at least, like LeBron, for instance, like he gave that Cavs team a chance. There was really nothing he could do there. So he went to the Heat. And even in my opinion that was a big 3. Don't get me wrong, D-Wade and Chris Bosh. But it wasn't James Harden, KD. Like they weren't the top 3 players in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, this could be the best big 3 of all time. And we'll actually talk about that right now in 1 minute. I just will say one last thing on that on Harden saying that he gave everything he possibly could to Houston. I just think that I don't think you can give everything to that statement could ever be made while you're putting in a trade request. I think the only way you could say that is if you've waited out your contract, whatever that contract may be, and you leave in free agency. You can't say I've given everything and put in a trade request and be sitting out and causing fucking fights in your locker room. Not fights in the locker room, but just mayhem in the locker room. Just not the right chemistry. Yeah,
it's a Kyrie
exactly.
And the last thing I'm going to say real quick before we move on, but I saw a post, I couldn't find it, but I was just looking now, but it was a post basically of Harden, Kyrie, KD on all their old teams. And it showed them all on superstar teams. All of them. They have really never been on a team that isn't all superstars. And looking at that, a lot of them have interchanged with each other through teams. I mean, Harden, KD, stuff like that. It clearly didn't work then. I don't know why you think it's going to work now, because there's a reason that you guys separated. There's a reason that a lot of you guys didn't go near each other in the past. I don't know why you think now with the Nets team that has such an established system, like Jerry said, I'm going to reiterate it, established system, and they're not doing great, but they're doing a lot better than we thought, and they're still pulling through.
That's actually what I want to ask you. I want to ask you both this. This will be this could be like the last thing we finish off this pod on, but 2 things for both of you. Do you think this is the best big 3 ever assembled? Do you think they win a championship?
I think I'll start. I think it is one of the best. But for me, just saying you're the best, it doesn't guarantee you a championship. So that's the thing for me, because the best, I'm saying that based on talent. I mean, there's a post there that shows, the NBA championships that all 3 of them won. I mean, Harden didn't, but still, the NBA championships that Kyrie and KD have won, them being, in the finals and stuff like that, and a lot of great situations, MVPs, everything like that. Sure, they probably all 3 of them combined have the best track record with the points they scored, the plays they've made, but that doesn't make you the best trio to ever have been assembled. So sure, on paper, with your resume, they are the best trio, but I don't think this trio will win a championship, and I don't think that this trio is going to go very far at all in the future. I don't think it's going to last that many seasons. I really give it 2 seasons, 3 seasons tops before things start really shitting the bed, in my opinion.
Yeah, for me, and then I'll give it to you, Justin. To me, this is the best 3 of all time in terms of where they're at in their career, talent-wise, and just overall skill. In terms of their career, this is the best 3 of all time. You like a lot of people are like, oh, LeBron, D-Wade, Bosh, I was dominant. Well, yeah, but in my opinion, LeBron was not at the peak. I think all these players are at their peak right now. Like, we're living in it right now. Do I think they win a championship? I actually do, but not in the way that everyone thinks they do. I think one of them falls out. They either I don't know if they'll get traded or something, or they'll get injured, or they'll just refuse to play. But
fucking dumbass Kyrie, whatever he's doing. Yeah,
I think one of them will fall out, which will allow them to win a championship. I can't tell you if it's going to be Harden, KD, or KD and Kyrie, and Harden falls out. But 2 of these players will be kind of the peak, and they'll be the people that led this team to a championship. but it won't be all three of them together. It can't be. It won't be.
I'll real quick say I can see that happening, Jerry, and I definitely will not disagree with you if that ends up happening. But if it doesn't happen, I'm just gonna say, I'll stick by what I said. With these three, you're not gonna go very far.
Yeah, I actually like what you just said there, Jerry, though.
Definitely not two. Definitely not two.
I like what you just said, though. There, I think that Harden and Durant, if you just personally, I think Harden and Durant, no doubt, will mesh well. And especially if Kyrie is going to take some time off here for the next few weeks and just let Harden have his debut with the Nets, just with Durant alone for the first couple games or first few weeks or whatever it is, or maybe the whole goddamn year because Kyrie's on La La Land doing whatever the fuck he does. But anyways, I think Harden and Durant are going to play very well together. It's that third piece. It's adding in Kyrie. I don't know how that's going to go. No one knows because these are three of the most just biggest personalities in the league. It feels like they're just three kegs filled with gunpowder ready to explode. Something has to happen to screw this trio up. It just seems like it's inevitable. But I think that I like what both of you guys said. I think you both hit the nail on the head that this, as far as just raw talent on paper goes, this probably is the best big three of all time. I'm going to wait till I would say they need a ring, at least one ring, before I'll give them the crown there. I still think it's Durant and the Splash Brothers just because of the longevity of their greatness. Or not even, it wasn't even that long, but they just won. They won so many rings.
Rings, though. That's also what solidifies it. Just because you have won rings and now there's three guys that are brought together that are good on paper and you don't win rings, then you don't get the crown.
That's true, but I'm just saying from I
understand what you're saying with the peak. They definitely are at their peak.
It's
I know, I like that. Yeah, I like
what you take them line for line. I just think here's the thing. I do think
but KD, it's do or die for me.
Like you said, Justin, I think KD stays there. I think whoever wins the champion, if they get to a championship and there's only two of them standing, KD is one of those people. I don't think he's going to be the one to fuck it up.
I honestly think Kyrie might be the one to follow it. I'm going to say that.
Well, it's going to be either Kyrie or Harden. I think it's going to be Kyrie or Harden. I think it's more likely to be Kyrie, to be totally honest, because Harden has
KD.
That, and he just has an experience being on a team for a while. Say what you want about Harden, and I agree. He didn't really give it everything, but he's been on a Rockets team for a while.
They never missed the playoffs. He was eight. He was 8 for 8 in Houston.
I will say Harden, I think, has more loyalty than Kyrie does, and he's less likely to be naturally toxic unless something really is going wrong with the Kyrie KD. And I think if something really goes wrong, I think Kyrie will be the one to absolutely just.
And I also think he hasn't had anyone really on his team to challenge him to the point where he needs to be challenged, which I think KD and Kyrie can do. So in a sense, I think it could work there. I think they win a ring eventually. I don't know. I don't think they're on, like John said, I don't think they're on that team for the longest time. But I feel like whether Kyrie falls out or somehow they mesh, I think they win a ring. It would be hard to see this team formed and not win a ring. That's why I'm kind of I just don't
you're given these great pieces. How could you not?
It's just you're given everything in the world. Come playoff time, that's a hard team to beat. So it's hard for me in a world where that happens, where I'm like, how do you not beat this team? But
this is what I will say, and I think we're all in agreement, and we'll move on. I don't know if Justin's got a stat.
I think that this team is. I really thought that the depth watching this team this year so far, the first month of this season, I thought that this team's best factor was their depth. That was how they were dominant in Premier Week, just blowing teams out by 40, including Boston. They were so good because of their depth. I thought that when you have two such big personalities like Kyrie and KD, the bench depth is what's going to save them, is what was going to save them and come to playoff time. I thought that the bench was going to win them a championship, maybe, if they were to win one. And they just traded it all away for Harden. And now they have no depth whatsoever. It just is monster big three. All that being said, I do think they win a championship. I think this team is just ridiculous. I don't know how you guard these guys. I mean, if all three of them are playing in a 7-game series, I don't know how you win 4 games. I just don't know how you do it.
I think if all three play, this is the last thing I'll say. I think if all three play, I'm definitely going to get behind Jerry's idea of what's going to happen in the future. But I think if one of these guys does, and I think it's probably going to be Kyrie, but if one of these guys is acting up, this team their worst enemy out there for getting a championship, and we've said it many times, is going to be themselves. It's a cliche thing to say, but obviously we all agree that no team could stop them except for them, because they have the potential to beat any team right now in the league, any team with the talent they have. They could go against LeBron. They could go against Kemba and the trio with Jason and JB. They could go against any team, and they could annihilate them. And we've seen them beat the Celtics really bad, and we've seen them beat the Sixers, and there's no reason why they shouldn't now with Harden. But
only reason
will ultimately be their biggest downfall if they do anything wrong.
The only reason, and I'll end is on this, is the only reason I think they're going to work is because I think there's going to be one guy they cling on to, which is going to be KD. And then Harden and Kyrie are going to actually have to like fight for their role. Like on Kyrie, every team he's been on, it's just been him. Like he can do whatever the hell he wants because he's Kyrie. Same thing with Harden. Harden can do whatever the hell he wants because he's Harden. They've never been in a scenario, the both of them, where they legit like have to play their heart out because one or the other is going to take over their position probably, like in terms of getting the ball. KD been on a team where like Curry and Clay can play. Like he kind of has to show up too, or else he's gonna be left out. So that's why I think KD's gonna be the last one standing, and it'll just be Harden or Kyrie by himself. More likely Harden, but that's why I think they could get there. I think even if Kyrie just completely leaves the picture, Harden and KD at their like when they're both on is still a hard team to beat.
That will be one of the stronger duos I think we've ever seen. I will say that. I think even duos, I think that will be much more than Kyrie, KD. I think honestly, Harden KD will be a stronger duo.
Honestly, I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it.
I cannot wait to watch it.
But it could be a shit show, or it could be an absolute blast to watch.
Justin, your final words.
Do you have any stat? Do you have a stat of the week or anything?
I do have a stat of the week. I know we're close to an hour right now. I can run it real quick if you want. It has to do with the upcoming NFL playoff games this weekend, which we might as well just end it with just hoping for a great weekend of football. But anyways, my stat of the week is that the Los Angeles Rams have a 37-0 record when leading at half under Sean McVay in the 4 years that he's been there. Basically 4 years of Jared Goff as well. So Jared Goff and Sean McVay are 37-0 when leading at half. So to Green Bay, I think Green Bay is going to win this game. Again, if you haven't watched that last video, go watch it now. But I think if you're the Packers, you might want to play a good first half.
You know what?
Just to be sure. Just to be safe.
All I'll say is obviously I am a little superstitious sometimes, so I want the Packers to be leading at half because stats are there for like a stat like that. There's a reason that they're 37-0. Not just because they got lucky. It's because whatever happens in that locker room after that.
Hard to come back on that defense.
They've come back on that defense, and I think we've seen it with the Seahawks as well. Them playing the Seahawks, that great team. We went into depth about it, but you're leading at half. You're playing such a dominant defensive game. That's gonna. Sean McVay he's a young guy. And a lot of coaches that are older don't know. They're good, but they're not always the ones that uplift that team. It's guys on the team, but Sean McVay is at the age where he should be on that team, a player on that team if he was athletic enough and could do it. So his age makes him that he can walk up to those guys and talk to them like they're just teammates. But yet he commands the respect of a high-ranking coach. And so I've always respected his game, and I definitely wish him the best in this game, but the odds are definitely against him. That's all I'll leave it on. But the odds are against him.
Yeah. Justin, that's just a great stat of the week.
That is a great stat of the week. And I think with that, we'll end it. But just get ready for the NFL playoffs, and we'll be back with you boys in a couple days after they play it out.
Yeah. Tune in because we're going to be covering it all. As always, if you made it this long, please like and subscribe to the channel. Boys, it was nice having you here today, and we'll see you all next week.
Sounds good. It's been real, boys. Peace.
Peace.